All right, for more on this, we are being joined by retired Colonel Rich Outzen, Senior Fellow at the Atlantic Council and the Jamestown Foundation. He's joining us live from Washington, D.C. Rich, welcome back to WION, and thank you so much for joining us. What is the significance of this ceasefire deadline before Ramadan, which is the holy fasting month for Muslims, and how does it impact the negotiations between Israel and Hamas?
Well, Susan, it's good to be with you. I think the importance of the timing here works at about three different levels. The first level is that Ramadan has traditionally been a time of ceasefires and fighting involving majority Muslim countries. There would be a symbolic step towards peacemaking that would be intensified by the fact that it's a Ramadan ceasefire as opposed to happening at any other time. So I think that there's, from the perspective of certainly President Biden, and to a certain extent, both the Israelis and the Qataris, an interest in showing that there's a sincere desire for peace. I'm not sure Hamas shares that as much. But the second thing that's critical here is with regards to the Rafah operation. Of course, Rafah is the linchpin of determining the future of Gaza and whether Hamas will continue to rule over Gaza, which it clearly wants to do, or whether the last vestiges of its control over the Strip will be removed, which is what Israel wants. The fact that this Ramadan ceasefire that's being posited comes right as Israeli forces are sort of on the cusp and maybe a week or so away from launching a major ground operation to root out the leadership, where they think the remaining leadership is in the tunnels under Rafah, is certainly a significant potential turning point one way or the other in the conflict. And the third has to do with U.S. domestic politics. There's a major U.S. primary election going on the Democrat side of course, for Michigan. The voters have a choice of voting for Biden or essentially returning ballots saying uncommitted, which would be a major show of meh or lack of support on the Democratic side. There's a lot of people on the far left, the progressive side of the Democratic Party, that are skeptical of or angry at Biden for the generally pro-Israel stance he's taken during this conflict. So there's some thought that he's pushing this hard out of domestic considerations for this primary election.
Right. And of course, Michigan, with that very vibrant Arab American community and progressive activists, as you mentioned, leading this charge, a powerful Congresswoman, Rashida Tlaib there. So we'll be watching those primaries very closely. But this draft proposal for Gaza's troop that's being talked about in Paris, do we know how it plans to address the issues of prisoners on the one hand and military operations on the other? And why is it that Prime Minister Netanyahu says that Hamas's demands are out of this world? What is Hamas asking for? Do we know?
Well, I think what negotiators might call the zone of potential agreement will be that Israel ultimately doesn't want to stay in the urban centers in Gaza. It wants to withdraw to some sort of a security perimeter. And if it still has targets that need the prosecution, so to speak, they will go into urban centers and then pull out. This is sort of what they do in the West Bank. So they can agree to that. Ultimately, the Palestinian side can agree to that as well, or will have to, I think. So the issues then are timing and why. What would be out of this world for Hamas would be to expect that Israel will agree to never go into Rafah and will essentially promise to leave the residual Hamas leadership intact. And Israel's simply not going to do that. They can wait 30 days or 40 days. They will probably do this. Something they can agree to is a prisoner exchange, even at these rates of 5-to-1 or 10-to-1. This is sort of par for the course with regards to how this conflict has gone over the years. But what Israel is committed not to doing is to allowing the masterminds of the October 7th attacks to stay hunkered down under Rafah and then come back out and rule Gaza when this is all done.
All right, retired Colonel Rich Outzen, thank you so much for that thorough analysis. We'll be, of course, watching this story very closely, and I look forward to speaking to you again very soon. Thanks.
Thank you, Susan.
For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.